Well, happy Friday. It is June 14th, 2019. This is Journal 78. Can't believe I've done this 78 times. And T plus 73, 27 days till we start to think about heading home. It's actually going to be 28 because we're going to spend an extra day as I recover from all the testing and the bone marrow biopsy before we actually load up the car and head west. Today was an interesting day. Most of my days are interesting considering the fact that they rarely change very much. So maybe that's why I think we should probably celebrate sameness when it's appropriate, when you have to, as I do, or when you choose to. There are a lot of good things that can come from that, and I'll give you an example. Today, Lesley found herself having to head back towards Simi for a couple of appointments and to take some stuff that we had brought here in March, brought out this way in March back to the house because it's stuff we're not using anymore. And LA is, if you're not from around these parts, then you have to realize that LA is one of those places where, the 1 hour drive it took you to go to where we live took 2 hours to get home. But once again, it left me home alone. And I decided after I had my PICC line flushed that I'd go for a walk. And I did. And it was good. It was a 2.5 mile walk. Took a little bit under an hour. Pretty much wipes you out when your hemoglobin's still lower than it ought to be. But it gives you lots and lots of time to think, especially when you choose major thoroughfares, walking down Azusa Avenue and then whatever street I went down as I headed west to Vernon and then north to whatever street it was that I was on when I headed back to the hotel. And that's when I was thinking about this idea of sameness. I mean, sameness is familiarity. Maybe if you feel more comfortable with that term, is something that you live with when you're in the situation that I find myself in, when you're recovering from a stem cell bone marrow transplant, and you have to deal with a list of restrictions that that come up just in the course of a normal abnormal day. And there are all kinds of examples of that, and we won't even talk about diet yet. But while I was taking the walk, there was a homeowner that was taking care of their lawn, and they had a weed whacker, and they were going to town on the parkway in front of their house, which I found fascinating because there wasn't very much grass there. I could see that from all the way down the block, and there were bilious clouds of dirt and leaves and God only knows what else, flying around her. And it was intriguing to me that she wasn't wearing a mask with that much stuff in the air, because I do. I have to wear a mask all the time. And the minute I break out of the room, it goes on. Actually, it goes on before I break out of the room. But we've been warned by the doctors and told in no uncertain terms that I can't be anywhere where lawn work is taking place. There's too many different kinds of things that bacteria, spores, If any of you are familiar with valley fever is a spore, and it usually occurs when the ground is disturbed, much the way this woman was. So halfway in the middle of the block, I had to walk across the street. Uh, and the first thing I did was check to see which way the wind was blowing, by the way, because I had to go across the street in order to get away from the debris stream she was creating. So, that's one example, just one example. I had to wear a long sleeve shirt, hence the denim shirt. And I have to wear them all the time. I can't be outside in the sun uh, between 10 and 4. Obviously, I have to get in the car, get out of the car, um, whatever you have to do for transportation. But I'm not going to sit by the pool. I'm not going to go ahead and go to the beach. These are all things that I can't do because of all the drugs that I'm on, and because of uh, the chemotherapy and the situation I was in. You're much more susceptible to skin cancers if you spend any time in the sun. And since I've already been treated for basal cell and squamous, whatever it is, um, have no desire to go ahead and add melanoma to the list of maladies that I've been suffering with. Um, then you have the list of all the issues that are treatment related, and believe me, I'm not complaining about them. It's just really, it's just a statement of fact. I can't have any dairy products, which for the most part I really haven't missed all that much, but it does limit the number of things that you can eat because so many things have dairy products in them. Um, but that's for gut health. That's because of my the problems I've been having with my GI tract. Uh, so that even further restricts the diet, things I can eat and things that I can't eat, um, things that have to be prepared fresh. And what happens when you're in a situation like that, you wind up, eating more frozen foods than you've ever eaten in your life. I mean, and you wind up eating vegan. Uh, you wind up eating, dairy free as a result, which makes it easier. But your world gets smaller and smaller and tighter. And the only way that you can maintain your sanity through something like that is if you celebrate the sameness and recognize that it's taking you closer to your ultimate goal, which is, getting better and a cure. And under those circumstances, you can endure pretty much anything, I think, if your head's in the right place. And your job, as the patient, um, is to figure out ways to do that. And when Lesley and I walk together, we talk a lot, just about stuff, about things, about the recovery, about the treatment, about how crazy it is, the results of the tests and how nuts they are, uh, and about how wonderful it's going to be, to get home. Now, she's been home a few times, and she says when she goes home, she winds up standing in the kitchen or the living room or the bedroom and just going, "Hello, house. It's so good to see you again." And I can really understand that. But when you're on these long walks by yourself, you tend, um, as much as you can, to think a little bit more introspectively. And while I was doing that today, I really did start to think about this whole issue of celebrating um, the idea of sameness or familiarity, especially when you have no choice. Um, and it helps. I mean, it really does. It really does help rather than find yourself contending against it. Um, I found that this new philosophy I've embraced of trying not to fight with everybody about everything all the time. Not that I ever really did it very much, but um, has no real value. It takes a lot of energy and it's counterproductive. It doesn't really take you anywhere you need to be. So I've abandoned it. And if getting better, if being cured requires a little bit of the sameness, um, I've embraced it. And I think that's what's prevented it from driving me nuts. So the next time you find yourself repeating, you know, certain rituals, or find yourself, in a groove, as long as the groove doesn't become a rut, you're okay. Um, Celebrate it, enjoy it, recognize whether or not it's taking you closer to where you need to be, and getting you the results that you want, or need, or expect, and enjoy. And hopefully you'll think about me in the meantime, doing that for the better part of a year. Uh, in the meantime, stay well, take care. I'll see you on Journal 70, uh, Journal 79, and we'll go from there. Stay well, take care. Bye bye.